This is our town.
Welcome.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 204 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and I've got a special couple of guests today to talk about these amazing topics we have today. We've got Garrett Weinzierl from The Angry Chicken. What's up, Garrett?
Hey, Chris. Good to be on a show with you again.
Yep. Yeah, we've been talking about like crossovers for a while now, so I guess this is kind of the Value Town Tack crossover.
Not how I pictured it.
Yeah, not how I pictured it either. But you know, given the topics for this week, I couldn't think of anybody better to have on the show to discuss all the Blizzard stuff recently. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Not fun. It should be interesting. Let's just.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Sure, man. If you say so.
Yeah. But I also want to welcome Tom Matthiesen to the show.
There we go. Yes.
I had to make sure I get the pronunciation right. But he's for those of you that don't know who Tom, he's a writer for Inven Global currently, and it's just we had him on. Oh, man, how long ago did we have you on? Maybe a year ago.
I think it was July when.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while.
But it's good to be back, and thanks for having me. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. I thought it'd be great to again, discuss some of these topics with you. So today it's going to be one of these shows where we're going to talk about Hearthstone. I know you guys freak out when we don't talk about Hearthstone. So we're definitely going to talk about Hearthstone in terms of the game and the new Tavern brawl and just some decks from post nerf. But we're definitely going to talk about the Blizzard layoffs, and that's going to extend beyond Hearthstone. Just because myself and Garrett, and I know Tom also, we cover lots of games, and particularly Blizzard games too. So these layoffs, affect different, or we have opinions on these layoffs across the board. And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A. Those of you that tweeted, we're definitely going to get your questions in. If you're in the chat, just save the questions for the chat, and we'll get to them as well. But just like we start off every show, just our week in Hearthstone, what you guys been doing in terms of Hearthstone? Playing anything in particular? Ladder, wild, anything?
Well, when I come up for air out of auto chess,
oh man, me too. Same thing, dude. Totally.
No, dude. I gotta say I'm not the most original player in the world, but I'm rather enjoying some of the more popular ladder decks right now. Both the Secret Paladin and the Secret that have come out after the most recent nerfs are very much my jam. I like to play a lot, and when I finally am just done fighting the slow meta and decide I want to be part of it, Wall Priest is so fun to play.
Dude, Wall Priest is my jam for sure. I definitely love that style of playing the most. Tom, how about you, man? Anything?
Well, yeah, I'm glad Garrett already said auto chess because, much like
That's
him.
not Hearthstone. See,
I know, but I just want to say on this podcast that I had a level 3 lone druid on round 25.
Oh my god, that's crazy, actually. Go ahead.
Anyhow, in terms of Hearthstone, because otherwise I'll never be invited again. It's.
Listen, if auto chess is in Hearthstone, you should probably tell Hearthstone streamers that, because that's how.
Yeah. No, but actually, some Hearthstone streamers I've never watched before are having fun Dota streams. But in terms of Hearthstone, I think the past month or two I've hit kind of a low in enjoying the game. I kind of have that every year when in the beginning of a year I'll play so much Hearthstone that I don't even know what else I'm doing anymore. But I think around like when the third expansion settles in, I don't know, I just get a bit bored of the cards that have been in rotation for so long, and I just need something fresh again. But I've definitely been playing, but I just still play Q Block. I don't care. It's
Q Block, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I've teched it all against hunters, and it's working reasonably well. But if I play Hearthstone, or I should say when I play Hearthstone, that's definitely what I'm playing. Cubelock or
Cube.
Mechathune Warlock, because those
okay, that's a lot different. Mechathune Warlock versus Cube Warlock. I was gonna say give you props for playing Cube Warlock in this current state, but then you throw out Mechathune Warlock, and I'm like, you know. So no, that's cool. Yeah, Warlock's definitely a lot of fun. I don't know why I haven't played a lot of Warlock just generally in Hearthstone, in a while. Ever since like Cube Block was like obviously super crazy broken. It's been a while since I've played. I mean, I did the whole Jack like thing, like everybody did in that first week. But ever since then, I just haven't really been prone to playing the class. But but for sure the class is really fun and great. But for me, I've been kind of doing the same thing as you, Garrett. I mean, all these decks that are good now in the current meta, they're all new. Like I consider these decks fairly new, like Wall Priest.
I mean, most of them are. Odd Paladin is still around, but
I just don't even see Odd Paladin. Like I go to HS Replay and like it just filters out Odd Paladin and Even Paladin. Like they don't even show up in my eyes anymore. Like
it's like that's there, of course. We
So those just get skipped every time I get to them. But Secret Paladin, I mean, we might as well flip the agenda a little bit. We might just talk about these decks, given that we're playing them. Secret Paladin is showing up now out of nowhere. I mean, this deck literally did not exist at all before the nerfs happened.
We talked about it on the Angry Chicken yesterday, and our audience is primarily audio only. So I found myself having to actually reread Bellringer Sentry. I was like, oh wait, our listeners probably don't remember this card because the last time we talked about it on the show was during card reveal season for Witchwood.
Oh man,
that is crazy. Yeah. Speaking of which, I probably should do it. Do the same too. So we've got like secrets like Auto Defense Matrix, which when has that ever been played? That secret with Noble Sacrifice and Redemption, and then you got Hydrologist, of course, and then you got like little aggro elements too mixed in, like Lost in the Jungle, Righteous Protector, of course, Secret Keeper. You got a couple of those. Good old Amani Berserker making his presence in a non-even deck for the first time ever, I think, in a Paladin deck. And then Knife Jugglers, Divine Favors, Bellringer Sentry, like Garrett was saying here, which for those of you that don't know what that is, it's Battlecry Death Rattle, put a secret from your deck into the battlefield.
And let me tell you, when it puts Redemption into the battlefield and then they kill your Bellringer Sentry,
oh my God.
Build your own mysterious challenger.
That's true. Is there enough secrets in this deck though?
Oh well, with the Hydrologist, it gets in there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I haven't played this deck a ton, so. I
mean, between the two decks that are like technically secret, the Odd Mage is, a lot of people are also calling it Aggro Odd Mage, which I think is more accurate because it doesn't have that many secrets.
Right.
But they're both running Secret Keepers, and the Secret Paladin has way more secrets by comparison.
Yeah, and their secrets are 1 mana, so it's definitely a lot easier to buff that Secret Keeper. Finishing it out, it's got Call to Arms, which is great to see Call to Arms being played again in some capacity, and then Funkelmancer's Sunkeeper Terran because it's just too OP to not play in any Paladin deck, and then Vine Cleaver at the very end. So really interesting tempo deck, and I really like it. I mean, at least I like what I see.
One of the cards I'm very surprised by is Amani Berserker because it saw play a lot just after the Witchwood was released, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, we play Amani Berserker now because we don't have other good 2-drops yet in the game." And it's just a filler, it was in in Aggro Mage, and those kind of decks.
Yeah.
But it's still around because apparently none of the 2-drops that were released are good enough. So
yeah, it's not in every version of this. It's that seems to be a bit of a personal choice. I've even seen Thrallmar Farseer in these.
Yeah, makes sense too.
One of I'm not running Amani in my version, but
Thrallmar Farseer is a card that. I mean, I'm not even sure arena players play either. It's let me bring it up. I think that it's in a different version of this. There's obviously multiple versions. If you go to HS Replay here, it's 2/3, right? It's 2/3 Wind Fury, right?
2/3 Wind Fury for 3 mana. I mean, Wind Fury is worth something, but I'm not sure it's worth the full mana on it.
Yeah. Definitely good stuff. But yeah, this one has Corpse Taker in it too. Pretty cool. So lots of variants, that variety. It's Argent Squire as well. But the
How
general
can that deck
archetype
win
is
when
cool.
there's just 3 cards that are green? Is that correct? Like in your mulligan win rate, everything else is like.
Well, it's like green because it's like relative. I mean, all green means is that like those are for sure the cards you keep in the very beginning. So yeah, this one's not quite as good as the other one, but yeah, it's still definitely above 50% by a good amount, and you can climb with this deck for sure. Yeah, when red, guys, is 51.2%, you know you're playing a good deck, right?
Yeah. You know, we're going off HS Replay. My biggest head scratcher right now is Malagos Rogue, because I see a lot of games logged, but I'm not seeing a positive win rate.
Oh, we did that for Deck of the Week maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and yeah, it was basically, it's good against OTK decks because it's just a little faster than all the other ones, but it's not too good against aggro decks, and aggro decks seem to be the place to be right now. So, you know, definitely not going to be the greatest place. But let's take a look at Wall Priest. So Wall Priest is something we were just mentioning.
There we
go. Yeah, look at this green.
Look at that.
Look at this. That's nuts.
I know what you've all been waiting for, and that's a standard playable constructed deck that runs Moshog Enforcer.
Heck yeah, dude. I mean, this card was so... I was just telling Tom before we started that this kind of deck, you know, with the Moshog Enforcer, is the kind of thing I built on day one. You know, because it's just like, this is like no brainer that Divine Spirit and Inner Fire is going to be perfect for this card if it lives a turn. And, you know, it just never really stuck, or it just in the current meta, it was just never good enough. But it's so funny that it's like full circle now, because now the state of the meta for, you know, now that's a little bit more aggressive, that's something with Taunt that has a Divine Shield that's 214 literally removes the entire board. It's hilarious.
Yeah, plus your priests, you still have tools like Mass Hysteria and Psychic Scream. Like it's pretty nasty.
And the Witchwood Grizzly too, another 315 to throw up there if you know if your 214s don't work either. So yeah, this deck is really fun if you haven't played it. It's got a lot of the you know, the resurrect elements to it. It's got the Eternal Servitudes and the spell stones as well, just so you can get these 315s up and these 214s eventually when they die. But the really unique element to it is that it's got the Master O card that gets 2 of those cards out a lot of times, and just because O-Cart recruits a 1, 2, and 3 attack minion, so you can get the Grizzly and you can get the Enforcer out in 1 turn. And most classes cannot deal with 2 huge health minions like that.
And if they do, you just resurrect them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So lots of chances for a 2-turn combo if you got the Divine Spirit Inner Fire in your hand. And then the Topsy-Turvy makes it even better because it's just free. It's like a free flip of the health and attack, so you don't even need Inner Fire really. You just need a Topsy-Turvy with the, well, you basically have another Inner Fire, I guess you think about it that way, but it's free.
Yeah, you're only gonna use it when you're gonna kill him, right? So
yeah.
As I was saying before the show started, I saw this deck in your patch notes and I was like, what is Wall Priest? I had no idea that this was already given a name, and then I looked up the deck and I was like, oh yeah, I've lost to this. And what amazes me so much is that all of the nerfs, right? None of them targeted Priest, right? So, and then all of a sudden, instead of Zarek Priest being huge, we get this thing. What?
This thing? You're talking like it's a monster or something.
Yeah, but it's so weird when you think about it that this archetype, this kind of idea, we haven't seen this before in any capacity, right? We had the OTK Boar Priest with Divine Spirit Inner Fire, but that's a whole different beast, right? And this is just, I don't know, an amalgamation of this. I don't know what it is, but it looks fun.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like when it's like an aggro based meta, this type of deck is perfect for it. And I mean, it doesn't win like, I mean, there definitely is a ceiling to like how you know, how much damage it can do. You know, if you get lucky with Shadow Visions, you can get crazy amounts with Divine Spirits. But most of the time, I end up drawing the 2 Divine Spirits fairly early, so I can't do too crazy, you know, amount, because your opponent knows what they're playing against, so they purposely try to keep the health down. So it's a little bit of that dynamic.
Yeah, so do you think it's just that the meta has gotten more aggro that this deck is being played, or is there something else Like because
really good matchups against other control decks as well. Because it just has the ability to keep these high health minions coming, even if you have answers for them. You can just run like a paladin. You know, I found myself against OTK DK paladins more than once with this deck. They just eventually run out of ways to clear your board, and you just keep resurrecting these things. And all you need is one of these minions to stick. And if you've got your combo in your hand, it's game over. It doesn't matter how much armor and health the paladin has built up over the course of the game.
Yeah, you can shadow visions like more resurrect cards than they have, you know, removal cards too. I mean, you start with 4, right? You have Eternal Servitude, and you got the 2 spell stones as well. But you can get even more, and that even with those 4, they have to perfectly remove. You know, they have to have either minions on the board, or they have to have, you know, the pyro or you know, consecrate to remove all that stuff. So it's definitely tough.
Yeah, but as you were saying before the show, Chairman, when nerfs happen, people experiment, and then all of a sudden there's this deck we didn't even know existed that rises to popularity. And I think definitely one of those. You know, I always wonder, like, was this even a good deck before the nerfs? Did we just not know? And then after the nerfs happened, people just, you know, threw random darts at the dartboard. One of them stuck, and
I don't think it's quite like that. I mean, I think this deck was probably floating around, and you know, back when I was working at Hearthstone, you know, and you guys probably remember it. Like at the top here, there used to be another tab that would show you just like the clustering of the different decks. I don't know if you guys ever looked at it. Yeah.
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, really? It was cool. Like we had this
really
graphical representation. It was like a petri dish. It's like you'd have decks that literally you had decks that were like little dots, and they would, you know, like they would start to cluster together. And that's actually how a lot of the archetype determination works, you know, in terms of HS replay.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
so
just look at cards that overlap. And
yeah. But you know what we didn't show there though was just like decks that hadn't gotten a lot of games played. But there are you know, we definitely had them in the database, and every once in a while I like queried it just to see, you know, which games only have like 50 to 100 games. You know, people don't know about that have like crazy high win percentages. And you'll probably see like these type of decks sometimes, you know, like they're just kind of hidden and still haven't been discovered because that's just how meta is and the community is. They have to wait until
wasn't there like a while ago that Blizzard said like, yeah, the best deck in the meta at that time was like a mech warrior or something, and nobody was playing mech warrior, and just a few people were, and they were doing really well. That was it's fun.
True? Really? Back in Boom's day? Is it,
I don't know if it was Boom's day or even further back.
Yeah.
I remember a comment like that. I can't remember if it was Mech Warrior or not, but it was Ixar when they were talking about internal statistics. And he was just like, no, it's this thing you have no idea about. That's what happens right now. But so few players are playing it. I think Wall Priest, by the way, I'm pretty sure it was Tice who kind of got the spotlight put on this deck list.
Nice. Yeah. Tice is always... you know, Tice always tries all kinds of things on the stream, which is really great to see. And so let's see what else is there in terms of, man, I'm just like sorted everything by kind of rank 5 to legend, and look how many tier 1 decks there are right now. That's a lot. That might be the most we've ever seen in tier 1.
As a regular user of HS Replay, I think
9.
I believe
9 of them. That's crazy. I mean, obviously we've had like 25, 30 in tier 2 before, but 9 of them, that is pretty.
It is
wild.
still very raw data, obviously, but to see that many decks perform this well, it's I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty healthy, I guess, for the game that so many different archetypes can be played, right?
Yeah, even this Odd Warrior. You know, I know Odd Warrior is just like this deck we can't mention anymore in the community for whatever reason. But Odd Warriors come out with a different dynamic as well. This dragon version of it seems to be really the go-to version now. And Ysera's back. I mean that's enough for me to at least play this some. The fact that it's playing Ysera, because I love that card. But this is an odd deck.
Ysera is the OG priest value card, right?
Yeah. It's the Lich King before the Lich King existed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this one's pretty good too. Have you guys given this deck a try at all?
I am taking a political stand against Odd Warrior.
God.
What? Oh, come on,
man.
No!
I hate this deck and I want it to go away.
Why? Oh man, I crafted a golden Doctor Boom, and I'm sure as hell gonna play it.
Well, I mean, I haven't had that experience, so I can't speak.
Yeah.
The pull of a golden Doctor Boom.
Dude, gold Doctor Boom makes everything better. It's
Yeah.
No, but I personally like the alt quest warrior more just because I like smashing that hero power button when it deals 8 damage to a random enemy. But crowd roaster, kind of the same thing for one turn, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. Any other decks? Let's see that are interesting here. I definitely saw Zoo on here as well, which was like, wow, we haven't talked about Zoo. Surprisingly, we haven't talked about Zoo in a very long time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but it's pretty much the standard Zoo though. There's nothing very interesting about it, but it's just the fact that it's kind of back. I think is enough.
Zoo's always in fashion. It's it's like denim. It never really goes out of style. There's always a Zoo variant that will probably treat you correctly if you pilot well.
I've never liked this version of Zoo. Like whereas you, Garrett, took a political stance against Odd Warrior, I'm taking one against this Zoo deck because this is not Zoo. This is not my Zoo. Okay. My zoo plays Defender of Argus. Gosh. That's my zoo.
I feel like we got to make Hearthstone great again. I mean, there's so many political stances now. Like,
build that wall priest.
Build that wall priest. Oh my gosh!
Anyone can get it built.
So good.
Okay. Or Tyrande. It's voted for.
Oh man,
crazy. Let's see. Anything? Oh, it's funny to see that the hunter has just kind of been knocked down some because one of the things that people, were talking about before was just how strong hunter is, and really the hunter's mark. And I mean, the spell stone is obviously a pretty big one given how OP it was at 5, but it's still pretty good. Like I think both of those nerfs still make things pretty reasonable for hunters and secret hunters and spell hunters, but we don't actually see those. We don't see secret hunters been knocked down pretty far now, and it's really just
really taken over in terms of popularity and also win rate for hunters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've just seen a ton of them. I can only assume it's folks like me who like very rapidly was like, oh my God, these games are taking forever. I need to find a faster deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what they got now, which is it's pretty amazing. Yeah, secret, we definitely talked about the secret mage like a while ago, but the secret mage seems to have dropped off a little bit this week. It's barely in tier 2. It's still pretty good though, secret odd mage. So
I'm not sad that the aggro version is not doing well. It's I'm a Frostless Jaina kind of guy,
Yeah. I mean, I was watching Gara playing some crazy giant frost, just some big spell. It's not a big spell, but it's one of those kind of later or late game type of mages, and he had all kinds of things in it, and he was like winning. He was like top 200 or something legend.
Yeah.
I was like wanting to.
I just play my Janelai and Ragnos. He attack, he protect, he does everything when you have Frostless Jaina.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, anyways, that's kind of like the meta, currently. It definitely a lot of fun. Just go and check out HS Replay and grab, some of the decks that you see at the top there, and try it out. We'll probably pick the, I think we're going to pick the Secret Paladin for Deck of the Week this week, just to give it a whirl, given I haven't played it at all either. So I can learn it at the same time all the listeners are learning it. But there was a bit of news too, that Developer Insight came out, which was really interesting because it wasn't a developer's insight. It was like an announcement of something more so than it was an actual.
Yeah, bizarre. It was a strange title, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely a strange title. But
it was more like a Hearthside chat, right? They do those.
Yeah, exactly. But still some news, which was obviously good.
Hey, I'll take any image of Joe Mag I'll get, man.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
I was so happy to see Joe Mag get the camera.
Yeah, Joe Mag.
Exactly.
This is his debut, right? His debut on one of these actual, developer insights or vlogs or anything, right? Yeah. So he's got such a good personality for it. Hopefully we'll see him more in the future. But anyways, he was announcing this new event that's Brawl of Champions, and what it is it's a 3 weeks of a special Tavern Brawl or special Tavern Brawls that you'll get a chance to play during, just I think week to week, right? Each week it's going to be a different one, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
It seemed like from his description that it kind of increases in intensity.
Yeah. Yeah, as the weeks go, and there's gonna be quests where if you play the 3 brawls, you'll get packs, which is cool. It's always really nice. But the coolest thing is that you're gonna get to choose a champion, and then you get to play with their shrine, and I think you get their deck too, or at least they're gonna have a special deck for it as well.
Right.
I'm not is it the same one from the Rumble Run? Like that was the part I wasn't quite sure if it was like that kind of deck, or if it was just gonna be a special deck for the
I don't know. It's not live in EU yet, so I haven't been able to play it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think it's live right now in NA and EU. I haven't gotten a chance to try it quite yet.
Yeah. I think 10 p.m. it's live in EU. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
So it's like 20 minutes from now.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Definitely give it a try. Again, it's Tavern Brawl, so this is kind of, I think, the area where they really try out new things and really try to mix things up. It's basically like the arcade-ish area for Hearthstone. Think of it like that.
What I do like a lot about Tavern Brawl as a concept is just really nice, right? It gives the developers room to experiment with cards, but something like this, it helps to keep the flavor of the expansion alive, because most of the time what you see with an expansion is that the first month you'll be like, oh yeah, we have this new expansion, flavorful cards, and then the hype surrounding the theme dies off a bit, right? You're like, okay, we just have the cards, a few of those cards from the expansion that we still play, but using this medium to reignite that enthusiasm, right, to keep us engaged in the theme, I think that's really nice, because it's those themes are very what's the word, I don't know,
specific to certain strategies, or
I mean the themes are so original, and they so flavorful, right? Every expansion is like very well thought out theme, and then it's a bummer to see or to not feel that connection, I guess, to the expansion a few months into it. So using a Tavern Brawl like this, or like 3 weeks, right? It's like the season of Rastakhan. I think that's a great way to keep players tied to the theme that they love.
Yeah, so apparently when you choose a different champion each week, there's a new deck each week and a new shrine. So it will feel different from week to week. And Tavern Brawls generally do change from week to week, but this one at least will stay within the same theme. And like Tom said, I think that's a good point. I think that once the release comes out and all this content and the new storylines and the theme behind this expansion comes out, it just disappears, after a while, maybe after a month, like you just forget about all that stuff. And they try, with comics, and they try, they've been trying with these different videos and stuff, but I don't know. I don't think it works as well. Like the comics and stuff, like they're kind of cool in Hearthstone, but they're not nearly as cool as they are in Overwatch for me. So
right.
It's definitely great to actually integrate it into the game like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see more of it, frankly.
Really? Okay. You mean like the game, or you mean just like overall the comics and videos?
No, in the game. No.
Okay.
Get rid of the comics. I didn't even realize it was a person.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was the only one there. I was a big fan.
And they made that cinematic, and they're like, new characters, we're going to do stuff with them, and then they did nothing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
But, it's a card game. Like, why don't we have more events? Like, I still go all the way back to when we had the GBG preview in Arena right before it hit, and I'm like, why don't we still do that? That was it felt like going to my local comic store and getting in a pre-release for a Magic set like before it releases. Like, why don't we have that anymore? It was so rad.
But they do, right? Whenever a new expansion is, you can go to like what's it called? Fireside gatherings, and
it's not the same though. It definitely is not the same.
Because that's what I want to do with my online card game is be forced to travel to enjoy it.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I guess
I like firesides. They're fun. But I really feel there's a lot of kind of community events that could happen in the game, and I don't think they capitalize enough on how they could leverage that for excitement. And like you said, to kind of keep the excitement around an expansion alive long after its initial launch.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as there are this amount of time that they have to fill, like bridge between each of these expansions. And like, if you could just get, even 5, 6 there, whatever, 3, 5, 6, whatever, 7 days in before the expansion comes out and still get all the benefits you normally would get whenever you release it on that day, then, they should do those type of things. Just like you were saying, just kind of allow people to preview, allow the streamers to actually just experiment it in a very, limited, just a limited arena type of experience. So, I think totally down for them doing stuff like that. That'd be great.
Yeah. The card back event recently was really cool. And I'd like to see more of that too.
Yeah, I would like to see like a graph showing how quickly it spread.
That's what I want.
Yeah, like Hearthstone has 100 million players, so it's probably way too many to put in a nice and tight graph. But you expect it to go exponentially, right? I think I got it.
What graph is this? A graph of what now?
Of who has the Hakar card back.
Oh, okay, right.
Because at first it was like big streamers, pro players, and a couple of news sites to hype up the event, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I think I got it in like 20 minutes or something. Somebody said like, "Hey, do you want a card back?" I was like, "Yeah, let's." And then you start playing online, and now all I come across is that card back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a promotion, kind of promotional viral thing too that that can happen. Yeah, that's definitely.
There's a fun little sense of like goodwill and community building.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
it's easy too. It's like so simple to I feel like that's
it's a nice implementation of the Hakar effect from WoW, right? It's
right, passing around
very fun.
Yeah,
more like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I believe graphs came out about that back when that hit in World of Warcraft, or might have been the Lich King one. I don't remember now, but I want to see a graph for the card back. That'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely they could do. I mean, I just want to see a graph of generally all the card backs. Like, it'd be kind of cool to see like what the distribution
Which is my most unique card back.
Yeah, or just which one's everybody's favorite. They're clearly running it or using it, whichever one it is. So I think that'd just be a little bit of tidbit stats that would be fun for the community to see. Okay, well, anyways, that pretty much wraps with the news. There wasn't too much going on, in terms of Hearthstone. I don't think so. Unless you can, is there something I'm missing, Garrett? Maybe that they announced?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty quiet on the Hearthstone front, as I would kind of expect it to be right now. We've already had one more balance update than I was expecting to get. So
yeah, absolutely. And
I can't really complain.
We've got pretty roughly a little over a month until the reset. So
about the latest patch, just one more thing. I think I wrote it down. Something they didn't announce, but was actually it was hidden in some patch notes, right? Is that if you play Hakar and your opponent has a Malagos, it no longer amplifies the damage from Corrupted Blood, which used to do it first, right? Okay. So it deals 3 damage, a Corrupted Blood, but if your opponent has a Malagos, it deals 8 damage to them. They nerfed that, and that now it no longer does that. And I think that's a shame. I think they should return it, because it was one of those things that made one of those small things, right? That makes you think in different ways about the game. I think at the beginning of December, I was casting the finals of a Hearthstone tournament in Belgium. And nobody had any idea what was going on until the player found lethal through that. Everybody was like, well, he doesn't have lethal. What is he doing? And then it triggered, and we saw the spell damage, and it was glorious. It was beautiful. And it's such a bummer that it no longer triggers the spell damage. So,
I mean, I think you have to get down to the actual, the core of that, what it actually does, right? Corrupted Blood. I mean, does Corrupted Blood count as being casted? I forget what the actual text is.
It's cast when drawn, right? That's
it does say cast. That's true. It does say cast when drawn. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think to be consistent.
But maybe the game sees it as your spell still instead of your opponent's. In which case, only if you have Malagos, it would. I don't know. It should work for one of the two players, I think.
Well, it should be considered your opponent's. I mean, because it's in your opponent's deck, right? So it should be.
That was my
Yeah.
If your opponent has Malygos out, not if you have Malygos out.
Right. Like
that's what it used to do. Yeah. And now they changed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so minute. It's like
I want a depth comment on that. That's
I know it's very minute and it's very nitpicky, but just because I saw that one match I casted, which was absolutely amazing, I was so sad to see it go, because I think in the end it's also, I don't know, one of the things that I like a lot about Hearthstone.
No. When I said it's so minor, I mean, like, why would they go and change it? Like it's such a I don't know why they would even bother changing it if it does seem to be in line with the rest of the game. And
when I see stuff like that, I assume it means they're working on something where that would be kind of busted if it works.
That's a good assumption. That's a good assumption.
That's where my brain goes. I'm not saying it's always the case. I mean,
that's a good assumption.
I mean, we
see a return of the.
How long were we sitting waiting for all of the nerfs to rogue weapon synergy? Like when it first happened, we were all like, oh, well, I guess good weapons are coming. And it was years before weapons came. And it's one good weapon. It's Kingsbane. And absolutely new.
There's been a lot of misses, like 10 misses, 12 misses along the year.
I don't always stand by that. But we have a saying on the Angry Chicken about weird card interactions in Hearthstone. And it is that the only thing that's consistent about Team 5 is inconsistency.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, well, why don't we move on to our Blizzard layoff talk? But before we do, I just want to give a shout out to some of our patrons that support the show and our main supporters of allowing us to do the shows every week. And just want to name a few just to say, just to at least show our appreciation. So starting off, Mike T, our legendary producer as always, and then Ray Dan, Bryce L, Dan S, John C, Devin Y, Scott L, Grant A, Enburst, Gabriel F, David F, Andrew C, and William R. Thanks so much, guys. And if you enjoy the show and you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/valuetown and make a pledge, because we'd really, really appreciate it. Okay, so Blizzard layoffs. All right, so this, what's crazy is that, like, I knew it was coming, but I didn't actually anticipate talking about it on the show or for whatever reason. And so, me grabbing Garrett and grabbing Tom, like, it was a little bit last minute just based on the top, this particular topic. But for those of you that have been under a rock for the last, 24 hours or maybe even the last week, what happened yesterday was Blizzard had their fourth quarter earnings report from 2018. At the same time as making huge cuts, 8% of their staff, to be exact. And Bobby Kotick, obviously CEO of Activision, was giving the quarterly earnings, and he led it off with saying that they had broken records in revenue, like, to kick things off, and then which was
amazing.
It's the truth, but how. I guess you tell everybody about this. It was, I think, what was in question. But then he followed it up with the fact that they're cutting costs and having to lay off 8% of their staff, which is a ton. 8% is 800 people, or roughly 800 people. And so the staff knew about that. They knew that this was coming. They didn't know who was cut before yesterday. And I think originally it was supposed to be on Valentine's Day, which is like, man, that's cold, dude. Like, doing it on like Valentine's Day.
There's never a good time to do this. We had very similar things to say over on our Hero show when HGC was canceled right before Christmas, and we're like, wow.
Oh, I'm so glad you bring that up. Yeah,
everyone that had anything to do with this are without a job. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, and that tends to happen. That's very, very common, like with a lot of companies, because of the, like, going into the end of the quarter and having to do that. But so anyways, they moved it up because I think somebody caught wind of it, and they, for whatever reason, they ended up moving it up to Tuesday. And so everybody at Blizzard basically were super worried going into work yesterday, and 800 people lost their jobs yesterday. So the layoff,
looks like you and I deal with directly, are gone.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of the type of jobs, they basically said that no development jobs were basically going to be lost. It was going to be all non-development jobs. And, that includes community and PR and esports and, just graphics designers, everything, right? Just basically everything except for developers, which was it was interesting. I mean, it definitely tells you at least where the priority is. And I mean, it might not be a surprise to some folks in terms of developers having the highest priority, but I think this obviously makes it super clear, where it was. And Bobby also said that, by doing this, actually after the layoffs, they're going to be allocating, an additional 20% to certain areas, development teams and to certain games, basically. And the games were Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Overwatch, what were it? Diablo, and that's it, right? Wait, was it those?
Yeah.
Those five? I think those.
Yeah,
right?
Mobile games. Yeah.
Mobile games. Wow. Overwatch name.
No, that's
right?
literally what they say.
Yeah.
They said, right? So a colleague of mine, he was listening into the call.
Yeah.
And they're gonna focus on mobile games in 2019 on developing those. So.
Yeah, and some interesting projects with Overwatch, which I'm hoping is like TV series. And things like that.
But I don't know even where to start. So you pick where to start. with this because
so I just kind of want to. I kind of want to set the table here for everybody that didn't know what was going on. So, what followed? Lots of people tweeting and lots of lots of people that we've worked with for a long time, and we'll kind of get into it, really tweeting that they're looking for new jobs. And I mean, to have it happen to Blizzard, this is a first, right? Blizzard's always been this, I don't know, this company and this developer that, I don't know, they seem to be immune from things like this, where other developers, I think really, we would see these cuts. We saw these cuts with lots of big development houses like earlier this year as well. And
it's not the first though. They laid off 600 people back in 2012.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Maybe you're right.
And a lot of those people were rehired as contract workers for less money and no benefits.
Right. So that's a little different, right? Because they did rehire them. It was pretty crappy of them, just in terms of paying them less and whatnot. But the intention was to rehire them, at this point. With this layoff, there's no intention of rehiring. Like, these people are gone, and it's definitely a lot more cutthroat here, or not cutthroat, but it's just like pure cuts, budget cuts, and just didn't feel like Blizzard. And this kind of starts with, I would say, where Mike took a step, basically retiring. Mike leaving the company. Then it was followed by Heroes of the Storm. Basically the entire esports getting cut, and we were kind of seeing these things that are happening, and everybody's always pointing at Activision, but I'm not sure, what sequence of events are leading to this. So let's start, maybe before we get into that, let's just kind of start with your general thoughts on just everything happening yesterday and how it happened. Garrett, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, I was cussing up a storm on my Twitter, so clearly I'm not happy about a lot of people that I consider friends, and a lot of people that have had a hand in me getting to do what I get to do. I get to talk about video games for a large portion of my living. I still do contract work on the side, but I'm really privileged in that way. And a lot of it is because of the time I've spent covering Blizzard games and people at Blizzard that have stuck their neck out and helped me out with either getting access to developers, getting interviews and stuff like that. So, it doesn't matter how many times I show up on my own Hearthstone show and say that no tournament mode coming is tone deaf and lazy and I'm mad at this game. They still give me interviews, and they still treat us well. And the same thing over on my Hero show. So when I see folks that I've dealt with directly and have gone out of their way to be kind to me and to help me, I'm going to have an emotional reaction to that. On top of, I think anyone with a halfway functioning heart is going to see 800 people fired, and you're going to have an emotional reaction to that. And then when the CEO of the company, who gets paid obscenely more money than everybody else, opens the earnings call that is the fuse to this explosion with, we had the best year ever, record profits, most money ever made. That just dials up your emotional reaction to 11. And the dude he comes off like a villain at a Blade Runner, and there's everything wrong with American capitalism. The guy's an asshole.
Yep, absolutely. And man, I don't know. I don't know what PR like the PR team is thinking, like having him start with that. And you know,
well, they just fired basically everyone
I
on
know.
the PR.
That's true. True.
Blizzard and Activision, they're one and the same at this point in my mind, and I've been fighting. I've been railing against that for years. That no, Blizzard, they're autonomous. They're still doing their own thing. I no longer believe that.
Yeah.
But it's God, yeah, I'm already getting. As you can see, having an emotional reaction.
All right, Tom, what's your initial take on this, and we'll kind of dig into stuff.
Yeah. So, Blizzard people heard that they were going to get that 800 people were going to get fired before the company told them, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just insane to me. You know, obviously there's going to be shifts with Activision sweeping in, but to think that a journalist knows that people are going to get fired before that, like those people read on Twitter like, oh man, I might get fired on Tuesday. You know, that's just mind blowing to me, right? And then the way they did it is just beyond insane for me. Like there's you know, if you're going to make changes to your business, that's got to happen apparently, right? But these are not just numbers you're scratching, right? It's not just, okay, 8% is gone. There were people like crying in a parking lot because they just didn't know what they were up to, right? And I think I'm just you see I'm lost for words, right? Because when the Heroes of the Storm happened, it was like, oh man, that's a real scummy move to just all of a sudden pull the plug out of something so many people are invested to. And somebody at Activision Blizzard thought, okay, but what if we do it to our own people? And everybody's like, yeah, let's do that, right? Let's all of a sudden pull the plug out of 800 people's lives and make like kick them out without any notion, without any what's it called, like the period where you can look for a different job, right? And a kind of a notification period. I don't know what the English word is for that, but normally when you're being let go of, it's like, okay, you're going to be let go of. You have 1 more month to find something new, right?
Right.
And now it's like, no, bye.
Yeah. I mean, it's the they give you 2 weeks notice. You know, that sort of thing is, I think, what we're talking about, right? Yeah. And I think that's the part that, oh man, that, you know, what you were saying, Garrett, that this is really Activision. I mean, that's the part that speaks so much to a big corporation like that. That's a bit, you know, out of touch with the actual, you know, staffing and where everybody is. When you have to make a cut like this all of a sudden, you know, it's not something that you guys are working towards, you know, and that, like you said, you have notice. I mean, these people that got cut, what do they even do with what they were working on? Whatever they were working on just completely stops, you know, or you know, somebody has to scurry and try to pick up where they left off. And I mean, there was no preparation to this because nobody knew who was going to get fired before tomorrow. You know, yesterday. So it's
early reports are basically stating that it sounds like the publishing is almost non-existent at this point. Same with a lot of esports teams are. It sounds like they're on skeleton crews at this point.
Right, and so all those managers, like all those people that actually run those departments, like they didn't know what they are, like probably, you know, running like headless chickens right now because they don't even know what they're going to be doing in probably a month's time.
There were so many, it seemed like, from the Hearthstone team, specifically esports folks on it. I don't know who's left. Like, there's got to be people left on that team.
There's a couple, right? So you had Glitch, who was let go of. Yeah. So like she was, I think, the masterminds, or at least she controlled the tour series, which is a phenomenal series, and I cannot applaud the entire crew that worked on that enough for that. And then you had Christina Ristin, who was I think a player manager or something, she was an in-game spectator, and she kept contacts with all the professional players, you know. and a lot of those players were very fond of her, right? They were like, oh yeah, I think she was involved with giving Peanut Shaman its name because she was just joking around with those guys.
I never knew that. Wow.
I think so, yeah. And so I don't think it's like that many of Hearthstone esports specifically, but to me any number is too much because Hearthstone esports is kind of my life. So
yeah, like, well, I mean, Shay left earlier as well too, right? So
Shay left. Shay. I not quite sure about those circumstances though, because I think he was hired to build something big and then it didn't go the direction Blizzard really wanted. I'm not too sure about that. So if that,
so definitely some changes in the Hearthstone esports, and especially announcing 2019 and now having this happen. Who knows? Like, I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to still carry out 2019 the way that they were originally thinking, or some things might have to change. But to your point, Garrett, the publishing team, I mean, I think the entire team was just let go. Like literally the entire team, like Christina and Kenny and all those guys, like Tina, like all of them are gone.
Jesse Hill
too. Yeah. So
the thing is, I don't know what the full size of the team was, but
same, yeah.
Because it's not like when this happens that they publish a list.
No,
like,
they don't. It's like this
comprehensive list of everyone that was let go. But from our experiences with the forward-facing members of these teams, some of these teams like they just don't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it would have been more honorable if Bobby started the meeting with, "Okay, these are the people we're stabbing in the back. Let's go," and then read all those 800 names. At least give them, give them some.
I don't know about that.
I mean, anything would have been more honorable.
Yeah.
That would have been good. It is worth mentioning that they are getting severance packages. Not that
right. Yeah.
Makes it any better, but the subject of not giving them notice came up, so I just do feel it should be pointed out that severance packages were handed out,
and they're supposedly trying to help them, land at wherever, or help them get their next jobs too, which.
Well, yeah,
I'm not sure how that works. Yeah,
a lot of the upper management within Blizzard Entertainment. I mean, no one wanted to do this. Maybe Kotick did, but like, if you're even upper management at Blizzard, I'm sure this is an excruciating week. And I mean, who knows? We don't know what happened internally, whether severance packages were always on the table or if it was part of an internal debate. It might have been something that somebody at Blizzard fought for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It could have been. So one thing I want to talk to, kind of like, I guess, getting into like the people that got, ended up getting laid off. I mean, what's so painful about all this is that, it's not like Blizzard had, or Activision Blizzard had 800 people that were just dead weight, like they were just cutting off, the people who are like not working hard, not doing very much work. I mean, these people are all super passionate and smart. And I mean, people like we've worked with, and I am definitely going to get into specifics soon, but that's what's so painful about it, is that these people don't deserve to be fired. Like they really don't. And I mean, some of the people that I know that got fired were, I think, some of their best people. Like, I'm surprised they would even choose them over another person, that kind of good. So it's tough because, I think Blizzard does a good job of hiring, right? Like they hire very good, passionate people who are smart. And so, if you do have to lay off 800 people, you're going to be laying off, these types of people. And that's just... as a gamer, as a person, someone that's working in their passion, that's just really.
I think that's the point, though, right? These people are not being laid off because they're not doing their job correctly. It's that the resources they spend on those jobs can be spent better, according to management, right?
Right. So, that's how these layoffs pretty much always are. With like when you're at this level, like this many people being let go, it's callous, but it's a numbers game at that point.
Which makes you think that, I mean, then was all of this hiring just mistakes on their end? I mean, to have so many more jobs than really they needed, really ignoring the fact of who are these people, but like to be like having overhired for a number of years now, right? To have to lay off this many people is, I don't unless like all the projections. I think it probably had to do more with projections, right? Basically, they didn't meet expectations, even though they reached record revenues. I think their expectations were even higher, and so maybe that was the reason for hiring at the level that they were, but not and at this point, not reaching those expectations or causing them to adjust their budgets.
Yeah, I mean, not that it's any comfort or solace or makes this better, but it does. From the outside looking in, with what we saw happen with the Heroes esports, and it looks like they're going to be slimming down on the effort that goes into Hearthstone esports, though we still don't know. They still haven't fully detailed that out.
6 days, then we're
yeah, it's coming. But it does seem like they probably over invested in esports across all of their games. They probably hit it too hard, and where maybe in more than one game, I'll use Heroes as an example, maybe they should have just let a grassroots scene take care of it on its own, see how it happens.
Well, okay, so you name Heroes and Hearthstone, right? This is what another part of the announcement that were infuriating to me. They're going to pump more money in Overwatch esports. Now, I think almost every esports journalist, a colleague of mine, their stance towards the Overwatch League is highly skeptical and almost always saying this is just dangerous for esports as a whole. Because Overwatch never got to grow its grassroots scene, really. Like, we had a couple of tournaments in the beginning. I don't want to make this too much about Overwatch esports, but it's just directly connected to the topic we're talking about. Okay. So, and then they asked teams a ridiculously high buy-in, sell them this fairy tale. Meanwhile, player base is going down, and Blizzard is taking resources from other projects that are going well. Hearthstone has grew as an esport because the community loved it, organized tournaments, and then Blizzard latched on and said, okay, we're going to make this good, right? Heroes of the Storm has maybe one of the strongest communities
self-made community too. Like
self-made communities, right? Yeah. And at first it was like, obviously Blizzard spent way more money on that from the beginning than they should have, because it wasn't catching on. But the core community of Heroes of the Storm is so strong, and I've yet to see something like that from Overwatch, right? In the downtime from Overwatch League and from season 1 finished, what was there for Overwatch players, right? What was organized? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. They didn't allow folks to really organize much.
Exactly.
It wasn't like a lot of folks didn't want to. It's just a lot of folks weren't allowed to.
And then this Bobby guy at the meeting says, "Yo, you don't know the full potential. You haven't seen the full extent of Overwatch yet." And I'm like, dude, if Overwatch is going to be big, it should have happened already, right? You threw so much money at it. I don't know. It just makes me angry that more of the Overwatch League is a balloon, right? And I like watching the games. The production is great, right? But they keep on pumping in, and it's gonna explode, right? I had an interview with Raynet in December, a very long interview, and he went into detail about knowing the difference between viewership numbers and money that they're spending on, right? And Overwatch League is not pulling the right numbers. So seeing and hearing that more resources can be put into that, just they're going to keep pumping up the balloon. Eventually, I think it's going to explode, and then they've got through all of this shit, excuse my French, for nothing.
Well, the interesting thing about Overwatch League is that, I mean, I know you said that they're going to pump more money into it, but I mean, I know of a ton of layoffs that happened in Overwatch League, like in the last 3, 4, 5 months, including yesterday too. I mean, people got laid off in Overwatch League as well. So I'm not sure what he means by that, given that, I mean, this season, I mean, they're going to be running on a lighter staff. So I don't know how that's going to impact, the actual...
Even the contenders, Overwatch contenders, which was like the up-and-comers, right? That league wasn't going to have like live playoffs anymore.
Yeah, right. They removed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because they didn't allow the game to grow. From the beginning, Blizzard thought of Overwatch as their esport, right? This was going to be their big esport, but they were too enthusiastic, didn't give it room to breathe, and now it has suffocated, and they just keep piling money on it.
So I don't think we're there. I kind of disagree with you there, Tom, because like I don't think I've seen that happen yet with Overwatch. Like if Overwatch League that this week, they get under 100,000 for viewership or whatever, then I'll be in the same boat as you. But until that happens, if this week they still get hundreds of thousands of people watching Overwatch League, then
it's going to be the opening week, right? They're bound to have that many viewers.
Whatever. Like, I mean, if they don't, then it's super telling,
sure.
Right?
Okay.
But if they do, let's just say they do match what they did last year, then Overwatch League does still have that kind of momentum as being one of the top esports, regardless of the player base or not. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Overwatch is the one game that is able to transcend player base, and people just watch it. I mean, it's going to be on ABC. It's going to be like on. I mean, they're promoting the heck out of it and selling it like
right.
they've never done before, right? So we'll see. It's a risk for sure. It's a risk, but
I'm definitely not in the. I definitely hope it. Obviously, I hope everything will turn around and everything's going to be fine and everything's going to land on its feet. But if you look at successful esports in the history, it's always that player base has matched viewership.
Absolutely.
And at the beginning of Overwatch League, it did very well, over 100K viewers, and people were very enthusiastic. Towards the end of the season, it got, I think, on the main channel at least, I don't know if it's broadcasted on many other channels, it was floating around 50K, 60K, right?
Yeah.
Which is still a lot of viewers for a tournament, but not the amount of viewers you should get when you ask teams 10 million buy-ins. That's
well, the Chinese, apparently the Chinese viewerships were crazy. That's why there's so many Chinese teams this year. Is because the Chinese viewership was insane.
China eats everything that has the
it was at least 50% of the views, like is what's rumored to be, the actual views. So I agree though. It's a big risk. They're obviously putting more money into that and really taking away from literally all the other titles. But they're also starting the Call of Duty, like Overwatch League, basically, the equivalent to that in Call of Duty. So it's both of those things, I think, that they're just going all in on. And I mean, it's unfortunate for definitely, Heroes and obviously StarCraft 2. I don't even know the specifics. Like, what does that mean? Is WCS not happening now? Like, I didn't heard anything about that.
I think Starladder is hosting 2 events of the WCS. I don't know exactly, but you mentioned Call of Duty, and that's another example of an esports that has had the time and resources to develop its grassroots scene. Right, Call of Duty has gone unnoticed for a long time, but there was a very strong core that were playing Call of Duty in esports events, right? And then Activision said, hey, okay, we're gonna make this a thing, right? We're broadcasting it on MLG, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and it's been doing well. And that's one of the games that still has a potential to grow. Whereas Overwatch, it was it was announced at BlizzCon, then it released, and then a few months later they said, okay, hey, we're gonna do the Overwatch League. And we go, what? The game's just been released. What are you doing?
Well, for them, they built that game to be an esport. is how they said
right.
That, right? So
yeah,
it's definitely an interesting strategy. But like you said, historically speaking, there's always been a large player base to support the esport scene. And I mean, we're not talking about Overwatch being. I mean, Overwatch was Game of the Year, like the year that it came out. So there were definitely
it's a fantastic game. Yeah, I love the game.
There were plenty of people playing. I think the real question for Overwatch is when does it go free to play? Because it needs to go free to play for I think it to actually have a chance. So
I'm not sure if that's gonna lift up the situation. It will give it a boost, right?
Dude,
but
how could it not improve it? I mean, charging people $50 right now is not going to get you.
It's been on sale so many times.
$30. All right, like $20-$30. Still not going to get you new players. Like
you get around Christmas,
right, but it's not just the payment model. It's not just make a good esport.
I mean, Apex Legends gets 25 million the first week. Okay, so that's what they have to go against. Like.
It's also timing, and that was at launch. If Overwatch had been free to play at launch,
who knows?
Effect, I think, than if you go free to play down the road.
True. Doesn't have the same effect, but still, you have to at least be in the same vicinity. Like, you know, when you're still charging, it's like, I don't know, it just feels like, sure, you're going to be getting that revenue for, you know, these quarterly earnings reports and things like that, but in the grand scheme of things, like, you're losing. Like,
before a few months ago, Counter-Strike was still a paid game, right? And its viewership numbers compared directly with Dota and League of Legends, both free-to-play games. Dota, which is completely free-to-play. So I don't know. Every game has its own context, right? Through which you have to analyze it. But I don't know. Hearthstone esports, however.
Yeah, Hearthstone. That's what we're gonna need to see too, because, you know, the one thing about Hearthstone esports, and, you know, this is, you know, unfortunate, is that we just haven't seen any viewership for any of the Hearthstone esports stuff, and it's like, I don't know where the support comes from. If there's no viewers, then how are they making any kind of money or traction or marketing or any element if people aren't even watching it? And
like the playoffs got huge viewership, right? They did very well, right?
The playoffs did okay, but like all the other events leading up, like all these other tour events, I mean, they got 10.
No. So I think the last time I was on, we spoke about this, right? Because I wrote the article about like how the tour HET system was struggling. It was just too much for viewers, right? Every week you had a different champion, a different tournament. People like, come on, man, just give me one big tournament, like a major. I'll root for my players and we can win. But this was just, he is the DreamHack Atlanta champion, and then it's like, he's the DreamHack Winter champion, and it kept going on and on and on. That was just too much.
Yeah, but this season we're talking about less events. So even if we do get that 50 to 100,000 like for playoffs or world champs, I mean, it only happens a few times a year, right? And you're talking about, and those type of viewership isn't anything close to what some of the other esports are getting, you know, in terms of like the millions and millions of views, right, that they get. So I don't know. So for me, I still think it's a concern. It's a worrisome thing, you know.
But that's why they're changing the format, right? Yeah. It's an online competition split across 3 regions. I hope, for God's sake, hope they're at least going to have casters in the same studio, and it's not going to be online casting, because that would be horribly unprofessional for an established esport like Hearthstone. But have the players offline, have like a league system that gets people to root for the players. And it should do okay, right? It's cutting down in costs a lot, and when eventually it culminates into these big LAN events, they're playing 3 times a year. I really hope that's like one big Hearthstone celebration. I spoke a bit about this with Mark Fuji, who is the Hearthstone esports PR guy, and we'll see, right? We'll see which direction they're taking in.
Yeah, Garrett, what do you think about all this Hearthstone esports, especially, I don't know, comparing to even like Heroes, or, you know, back before Heroes got...
I got super burnout in 2018 on Hearthstone esports. It was just
too many.
It's a card game, and if you want someone to just ramble at you for 2 hours, find me in a bar, buy me a beer, and I will tell you all about how I cannot believe that we are half a decade into this game's existence, and the esports that are like the official esport for Hearthstone that is backed by Blizzard is still only one frickin' format.
Yeah.
How have they not? And it's difficult because it also ties in with the game itself. Your hands are so tied by what the game allows you to do. Because like when Hearthstone was announced, I'm like, this is awesome. I play Magic. There's going to be draft. There's going to be sealed. There's going to be standard. There's going to be modern. There's going to be so on and so forth. And so we have standard and wild. We have like a pittance of wild events every year. Everything else is standard. Maybe it's last year standing. Maybe it's conquest. I like the multi-deck format. That's not necessarily what I'm complaining about. What I'm complaining about is like, how do we not have a limited competition at all? And that's where it ties into the game itself. It's like, well, we can't even put together our own arena tournaments because there's no way to make an arena deck and challenge your friend with your arena deck.
I mean, the only limitations we really have are just the number of, like you can only have two of each card, right? But that doesn't mean that we couldn't do things external to the game to create different formats. Like an example would be just the Red Bull Seal tournament, right? Like the Red Bull Seal tournaments created the whole seal, built the tool, right? The Tempo Storm team built that tool, and it just created the deck building element of it. And I think that we could still do those things even without having the game like allowing for those things. It's up to them to think that it's a good idea and it's actually something that people want to see. And I'm right there with you.
Players, I don't think much like there needs to be enough players for there to be enough viewers. I think there needs to be enough players invested in the format to even want to watch it. Because if I'm watching at home and I can't play a freaking sealed version of Hearthstone because I don't want to go through the hoops of using a Tempo Storm tool, pulling together a bunch of my friends because there's no in-game tournament support whatsoever, and going through all that, I'm not going to be as interested in. Now, I am interested in it because personally, and as you can tell, I want to see limited Hearthstone in a competitive format. But I don't think the majority of people out there who are into competitive Hearthstone and also playing Hearthstone, I don't think there'd be as many views.
No, definitely. So we had the Tavern brawl a while ago, which only allowed you to use a couple of sets, right? I think that was I don't know. It's definitely not them testing the waters for a mode like that, I think, because Hearthstone is all about keeping it simple for their players, right? It's just you've got standard. You can play the latest sets. You've got wild. You can play all of them, right? And but I definitely agree that we should at least get the tools to make stuff like this. But I don't know. It's also a bit like for a company, right? Esports is just advertisement for their game, and if the community by now has not taken a liking to those limited tournaments, because there have been limited tournaments, as we said, right? But then it's not worth for them investing in it because they're not going to get the return.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not a huge fan of these limited tournaments, and I'll tell you why. It's just because, like, the play. I think the part that's just nobody cares as much about anymore, and the part that's not very interesting because it's been the same for 4 or 5 years now. Or 4 years now. Is it 4 years? Jeez, I always lose track. Almost 5 years, right? Is just the playing element of it. Like the broadcasts focus so much on just the once they have their decks and they just play, and you're like showing the gameplay. And the gameplay, there's nothing that special about gameplay anymore. It's like the casters try to make it sound as awesome as possible. They try to really set up these storylines, and they do a great job of it. But it's just not very interesting. And I think that where we actually have potential is just everything that happens before the gameplay. Like how these decks are built. Like you could do these like fantasy draft like things where people are picking classes and picking cards. I mean, you can do it's like endless as to like how many things they can do. Garrett, they can't do that at home, but still everybody knows the card. Everybody that plays Hearthstone, they didn't know the cards. They've probably played Arena to some extent too, and they've probably interacted with most of the cards. So I think they would be able to understand it, and if they can't play it, it still would be kind of interesting to watch given how the community reacts to streamers, it'd still be pretty cool to watch your favorite, players and, basically put in this situation, really test their abilities, right? Given a very unique format. So yeah, I definitely agree that the lack of unique or the lack of variety in formats is a huge issue. But limited type of expansions and things like that, that's not the way to go. Like, it's done it a million times. Nobody cared that much about it because it's not that interesting. It's just like a different set of cards, and you don't even see it's like you use these four expansions, and then they have their decks, and then they just start playing, and all that's shown is them playing.
Oh yeah. And again, it's not necessarily what I'm asking. What I'm asking for. I mean, unlock Arena. Give us some Arena tools to actually formulate a proper Arena tournament.
Sure.
Have more than two types of the same card, because I think the variance there will make watching it more interesting. Like you said, I think that a lot of interesting moments in a tournament like that will come from honestly the RNG aspect of drafting a card game.
Right, and how do you adapt to it? And you know, Tom was like, or you guys both know the joke of auto chess, but you know, I have to say the auto chess like RNG element to it is an interesting part to the game, and it's like it's surprisingly accepted. You know, like sometimes you get burned.
Yeah. Auto chess is. I'm so glad it exists now, because every time RNG complaints come up in Hearthstone, and it's like, oh, just makes for bad games. There's going to be like, look at auto chess. People can't get enough of it. Clearly, RNG can be utilized to make good games, and it has been. I mean, Hearthstone. We don't have maybe as egregious examples of it in more recent sets, but it's still very much alive and well in this game, and it's part of what makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, well, anyways, we kind of went down the esport hole, like a rabbit hole, pretty deep there. So kind of pulling us out of that, and kind of again, you know, talking about just some of the losses. So what do you guys think? Like, what kind of effects do you think the layoffs to publishing and to community and to well, let's not talk about esports, but those particular things and PR are going to have? Like, what kind of effects directly to, you know, us as community members and content makers, as well as just the game itself?
Well, right now I have no idea who I talk to for Heroes.
right.
No clue at all.
That's crazy.
The point of contact at Hearthstone is still there. So, but like on a day-to-day aspect of being a content creator, one of the two Blizzard games I do shows about, I have no idea who to talk to about it.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to predict what's going to happen, right? But if you take out like community managers and stuff, that means it could mean that the developers are going to be speaking more, which could be a good thing, right?
Speaking more in what context? Like, they're not going to be speaking to us, like arranging meetings and stuff.
No. But I mean, like you had these community managers who would, you know, talk on forums and or at least, you know, publish articles and talk with people, or like be the voice towards the community from the developers, right? That's a role like some of these community managers had, and well, people always like hearing from the developers directly. So I don't know, maybe we see an increase in that, even though Hearthstone already had very vocal, or like not vocal. Sounds like they're screaming or whatever, but you know, there was very close to the community, right?
Yeah.
So I honestly have no idea. I've never quite experienced this from a company like before that I was so involved with, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not too my answer is I'm not too sure as well. I mean, you know, thankfully Chris is still around. You know, in Hearthstone, right? So like all of us can still interact with Chris, but you know, I don't know what I'm not sure what the responsibilities of global publishing actually was. You know, I'm sure they had a lot of responsibilities. I'm just not sure exactly what they are. So definitely what I do know is that a smaller team will have to do all those things, or at least some of those responsibilities will have to be just removed, you know, but if not, we have a smaller team that's had to do all those things. So the existing staff is probably going to be overworked.
Yeah, I don't know. This came up. I'm actually curious to hear either of your thoughts on this. This is a point that was brought up just what seems like a second ago for me on my hero show. My friend Kyle said, you know, maybe when they're looking at the field and they're looking at places, you know, things like the subreddit and AMAs and Twitter and whatnot, and maybe the reason we're seeing community get hit so hard is that they're just thinking, well, the community is kind of self-regulating, you know, and like you brought up, maybe just more devs are going to be more involved with one-on-one conversation, which they already are to some extent, but we would I would assume most of, you know, like Ixar's replies on subreddits and whatnot get approved by somebody before he hits post.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Like
if that's the case, then I'm sure Mike Donet's last Reddit comment would not have been posted, if you remember that one.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Wait, which one was this?
It was a good version of this article talks about blah, blah,
blah.
Oh,
that one. Yeah. That was like a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was quite a ways.
I miss Mike because I like Mike a lot, you know. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, so you know, community is, you know, these are the people that work with us and make, I think, opportunities available for us. But I think that's the one part that might suffer. You know, it's like setting up these interviews. Like, are we really going to be setting up interviews directly with developers? I mean, like, find that hard to believe. I mean, at least we'd set the work through PR for something like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of
as
maybe,
you said first, right? It's difficult to know what you're gonna miss if you don't know what they did at first, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you're getting at, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is a concern for me. Is like my concern is they become more withdrawn.
Right. Absolutely.
And I mean, dude, Chris, you and I got started in like Wings of Liberty era StarCraft.
Yep.
And the outreach from that team was almost non-existent. It felt like an Ivory Tower situation where someone would just come out onto the balcony, shout a decree, and then disappear for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's StarCraft.
Yeah, I know. Okay. It could be something that's happening, but on the other hand, like I think more competitors of Activision and Blizzard are noticing that keeping a good relationship with your community directly is great. Is of great benefit to how people perceive your game, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least like the company. So, for example, with Apex Legends that's just been released, the developers have been fairly active, on the subreddit, commenting like, "Hey, can you tell me how this happened?" Or what? Just those interactions are that show the community that you still care about them, right? And I think that's something Blizzard has always done in some way, right? Showing that the community cares about them. It's not always been through stellar communication, but that recently they communicate much better than they did before. So I would be surprised if they stopped doing that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we've had different experiences, Garrett, you and I, for sure. But for me, community has always been a very underappreciated thing. Like community managers and what they do, and just that whole element of that department. I think just generally, it's just been really underappreciated. And I've had the pleasure of getting a chance to interact with probably the best community managers I've ever worked with, like just with Blizzard. Whether it was I know you've had an Ivory Tower experience. I didn't have that experience in StarCraft. Like I working with just some of Kevin. It was Kevin, I think, at the time, Kevin Johnson, and then Brandon, and then Kiki eventually. And then Kiki went over to Overwatch, and I got a chance to work a lot with Kiki there, and then Christina here, and Kenny and everybody. Like they play an important role in like keeping the streamers / all the influencers really connected, with the community and the game, right? And there's little nuances to that, but I think that a lot of teams don't understand like how much time that takes, like to actually do it well. Like you can do it poorly and just not be connected with these people, but the community managers that I know that are the best, and they really spend time with all of us. Like they go and hang out with all of us at all these events. Spend time. Chris, for instance, right now, right, with Hearthstone, he went. He goes and has a drink with all of us at events, and plans these kind of gatherings for people, and does all those things, and that takes a lot of time and effort, and I think that's taken for granted, and what that means. That keeps people still connected with your game, even though they might not be happy with it. And they might be happy with what the devs are doing, but they still continue on because it still feels like kind of a family, right? Like this whole thing. So
yeah, that's kind of like what I brought up so much earlier, is that when you make content like this, a lot of one of the most common insults that is levied against you is that you're just a shill, you're in Blizzard's back pocket. And certainly hasn't been my experience. I've never felt pushed by anyone I've ever talked to at Blizzard to have a certain opinion or talk about the game in a certain light. So much to the fact that it's like I don't mind getting on a show like this and calling Bobby Kotick an asshole. Like, like I think
anybody disagree.
It's gonna be all right. I'm probably still gonna be able to land a Hearthstone developer here and there for guest spots over on my Hearthstone podcast.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like there have been times where I've had extremely strong opinions about one Blizzard game or another, and it doesn't matter. The Blizzard still reaches out. They still
I mean, their approach is kind of like kill it with kindness, right? It's like, yeah, I mean,
well,
yeah,
you should. Like, what were you not going to? I mean, it's
no, but I mean, like they could kill it with silence. And
that makes it sound like they also kind of roll over, right? Which I don't think is necessarily true. I think sometimes they want to come on and they want to defend their product. Like
no, definitely. But they're never like assertive in any way. They just say, okay, that's your view, and we share ours. It's a very healthy approach, and as you said, like interacting with Blizzard people has never been anything but a pleasure, right? Because these people are obviously they are extremely well trained, but it's just you feel welcome. It's like every time you meet one of these people, it's like you're talking to somebody you've known for years, right? It's just so nice and welcoming and warm. And even if you say like, hey dude, listen, I really don't like that, they'll say like, okay, sure, but this is why this happened or something. Like this is why we nerfed that card or whatever.
I remember having this lunch with the community team early on in Hearthstone with like Christina, who's was one of the people laid off, and Andrew, and even Puffin, who was at the time on the community team, who wasn't quite yet a designer yet. And I remember I was just listed out all the things I thought was not right, and they're sitting there listening to it, and I mean, but in the end they still they still value you as a member of the community in making it. So it's
I've been I've had a couple of meals with Hearthstone players and developers or esports people present as well, and some of these players really do not care a lot whether who they're speaking to, because they're just they're frustrated with something is how something is done, which they do for their living, right? Which makes sense. But they would just rant for like, how can you make this a card and blah 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 blah, and how is it even possible that I get to play this but that class gets to play this? And we were just laughing, right? And the developers were like, yep, well,
we'll take your feedback into consideration.
Exactly.
And, well,
it's on our radar.
It's on our radar. Yeah.
Oh God, I remember going into an interview with some Heroes devs out at a Heroes Summit, and we were in the group that was after like the whole group of pro players, and you could hear the pro players like getting louder and louder towards the end of their talk. And we walked in, and the poor developers, they looked like visibly sweaty. Like,
oh man,
just tired.
Wait, who was it? Oh, well, you probably can't say who it was, but I can just.
I'm sure it's not a huge deal, but I don't want to specify. And they were,
I can imagine who it was.
They're like, okay, who's that? Hey, dudes, ladies, welcome. How are you?
Let's talk about something else.
So like, it's
a thankless job. This would be, or it can be a thankless job for sure.
It can be, no, definitely,
But yeah, so some again really great people that I definitely attribute a lot of the opportunities I've had, especially in Hearthstone and Overwatch, to a lot of some of these people that got laid off yesterday. And for me particularly, like for me, Christina and Kenny and Jesse and Tina, like they've done very great things for me over the years, and very, very thankful and appreciative of just everything they've helped me with in terms of again, like whether it's like interviews or helping with just making getting banned on Shimmer Showdown or just like any kind of support or help that they've given over the years. I mean, it has a lot to do with just us being able to do value town and things like that. So I just wanted to make sure I get just a big thank you to them on this show, because they're probably not going to be with Blizzard ever again. I doubt maybe down the road in years, but not anytime in the near future. And I hope all these people end up landing somewhere. What's surprising to me, just with all the sadness that happened yesterday, it was amazing how many people are hiring though. Like Riot has like 200, 300 jobs or something openings right now, and I saw people from Epic saying they're hiring, and people from like all kinds of people are hiring.
Well, that's the thing we spoke a bit about earlier, right? If you've worked at Blizzard, like you're probably gonna get a job somewhere else pretty quick, because they're known for their high barrier of entrance, but also you just have to be the top percentile to get in. So
yeah.
And that's what makes it rough when they get laid off, because it's like, but these people are so good at what they do.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about them. They're definitely passionate and good at what they do. So I'm not too worried about these folks, but you never know, right? Like sometimes it's situations where you have to move and it might not work out, whatnot. But it's definitely a very stressful period for these guys, and hopefully they'll be able to land somewhere really great, because they definitely deserve it. All right, any more comments, guys, before we move on to a couple questions, and then we can kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, just go to it, man. I'm just sad.
Yeah, definitely sad. All right, so we got a question from Doom14491, and if you guys have questions in the Twitch chat, go ahead and ask them, and we'll definitely get to them. What do you think about having a progressive rotation per year? Like Angora rotates in February, Frozen Throne in March, Kobolds and Catacombs in April. Well, I think month to month would be tough, but every 3 months, I don't know. That could be kind of interesting. The meta seems to be figured out, or at least like a lot of the meta seems to be figured out in the first like 6 weeks of an expansion. So, but a reset's a little different, right? Removing expansions is just quite different. So I don't know. I think it'd be a little bit too short a time for me, at least.
Yeah, I think what it's some, like, I spoke to Wicked Good Steve Lubitz on Twitter about it a few days ago, and it's something that I think rotation was going to be at first, right? When a new expansion comes, the oldest one is going to rotate out, and it's going to gradually shift. And I think the way they do it now is whenever a year ends and a new year begins, it's completely new, right? And if you have a gradual shift like that, I think you'll never have that feeling of like a totally fresh meta ever again, because it shifts, but so does the meta a bit, right? It shifts a bit and a bit and a bit. And if that keeps going on, people are going to get tired, I guess, because by the time some of the old cards rotate out, other cards have been in for way too long. And but using this hard reset, you have this like big drop, and it's immediately fresh, like a cold a bucket of cold water in your face, right? It's like, oh man, whoa, shit. And if it gradually shifts, it's like it's dripping on your face, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is quite fresh, but eventually you get used to how fresh that feeling is, right? I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but it just
No, I follow you.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I really like the drastic change once a year. Right now, I don't know. Well, because the balance changes have more or less shaken it up enough. I have my own kind of qualms with even and odd, and I'm a little concerned about that hanging around for a whole another year. But overall, I really like the beginning of the standard year when we're playing with the fewest amount of cards. And usually right about now is my least favorite time of Hearthstone, is when things are more or less figured out and I'm seeing kind of the same stuff I've been seeing for a while.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against this. I mean, if they wanted to just try this for a year, I would be all for it, because I do like. I'm the thing I always say is like, just try something new, Team 5. Just throw it at the wall. See what next. I'm all for you taking risks.
I mean, I think that actually, from the standpoint of vibrancy of the game, I think that would be better. Just having the constant change every so often, because it might be tough from the standpoint of balance and designing, like knowing that this is going to drop off and having to try to plan that when they're like a year ahead of us, kind of thing. But overall, I think that just having constant change is good, and you can either have just a giant one in the beginning and kind of have it hopefully be able to carry out the rest of the year with just the expansions coming out and adding a little bit to it each time. But I think what we've seen so far is that it hasn't really worked well. Like it's like diminishing as we go, because each expansion, ends up having less impact because there's just so many cards by the time the last ones come out. So I think that if you are removing content while you're adding content, you're always going to be causing a much bigger, a bigger change, clearly, than just adding cards to it. And I think that would cause the meta to be just constantly changing. And we wouldn't see things like whatever Death Rattle Hunter, or it was any of the Druids for a while, any of those just last for 6 months at a time. That just wouldn't happen, because there's clearly going to be some expansion that was very favorable to one of those. Like if Frozen Throne just disappeared and we had the rest of the expansions still, it would be a completely different game, right? Like it just takes that one really strong expansion to disappear for a bunch of stuff to happen after that. Uh-oh, my chat's going nuts. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, a lot of message deleted.
Message deleted. Oh man,
don't know why.
This good old Twitch auto modding. Sorry about that, guys. Or Stream Elements doing something.
I know. At least Eric Yeoman G was complimenting Garrett about his hair.
Yeah. Well, he says it's something about like continue being awesome or something like that.
Oh yeah, continue being awesome. Yeah, that's right.
I think Boxman was asking what product you use in your hair. Let me turn down this.
Do you want me to seriously answer that?
Sure, answer it. What?
I use Axe Messy Look Paste.
Nice.
It's a hair paste.
Is it the same company that makes the deodorant?
Yes, it's the same company that sells 12-year-old boys horrible smelling deodorant.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think one of Cardigan's questions was if Gen and Baku would be better balanced if they also required a singleton deck like Kazakus. So.
Okay, I think it's maybe link protection or I don't know, something that was causing Eric Yeoman. So he asked, "What do you think of Bazaar?" I think Bazaar. What I know of it, I contributed some to the Kickstarters. I've been getting all the little updates and everything on it. I think that Bazaar has the potential. I think Bazaar's, it's definitely very different in the way it's designed, and I think it's got a simplicity element to it too, with a skill ceiling as well, a decent skill ceiling as well. And really want to get a chance to play it a bunch. I think I didn't get a chance to play the card version of it that Reynad was basically having everybody play, but before he actually had it developed. But I just definitely heard about it and heard just really seen the examples of the type of gameplay it would be. Where you're buying these characters or whatnot. So I think it's cool. I think it's different. It feels like it's not auto chess, but auto chess is like this different type of no, I'm just saying like auto chess is like this very different type of card game that's not a card game, right? And I feel like Bazaar would bring that kind of element in another direction, and kind of let people see a different version of that. Why are you laughing about auto chess? Like what's wrong with that?
That's like, it seems like whenever we talk about like some kind of strategy, it's like, but auto chess is also a strategy game, it's like auto chess,
that shows my addiction to auto chess as well. So.
If you had thrown to me, my joke would have been I think it's not auto chess, because I haven't been following Bazaar at all.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Bazaar what is it's a good sign from where Reynad is taking Tempostorm, because he wants to make it a big media company, right? So he's exploring different facets of the media world. As for the Bazaar itself, I think it's an ambitious first project of them. I obviously haven't played the game yet, so I don't know if it's going to be as much of a success as maybe he dreams it will be, but I think it's just it's the first game in a series of games that they're gonna make, because that's the ambition Reynad has, and so far he's lived up to his dreams. So
what's really cool about it is it's like legit free to play. You're just gonna be buying skins and stuff like that. So I think that's already like one element to it that's very, very different. But yeah, I don't know, like Gary, you obviously don't know much about it, but it's like the concept of like you buy these characters, or like you choose these like these individual characters, like not just classes. They're actually different types of I forget what he's calling them, like heroes or whatever, and they all have different sets of abilities that they can do, and so you have that kind of diversity in that fashion. So but yeah, I'm excited to see it. I definitely want to. Can't wait till it actually comes out. And
yeah, it's a deck building game, right?
Yeah, it's a deck building game. Yeah, and auto chesses too.
Card game doesn't have cards.
I know, but it's a deck building game essentially, though. For me,
so it's just
it's to me. I saw it as a crossover between Dota, Advance Wars, and like a battle royale, because you have to be the last one standing. It's like
it's what Artifact should have been. Okay, let's just be honest.
It's just the universe where Artifact was successful.
Oh damn! Oh gosh, that's so true. It's so true. All right,
Artifact dipped below 300 players last night.
300? Why are people even keeping track at this point? I mean, it's just like
at this point, it's just how low can it go?
I mean, is there 300 developers for that game, basically?
Oh man.
or the 300 influencers that got paid to play that game.
All the players being the people who work on it.
No, listen, I'm legitimately sad that it didn't take off, but it's entirely Valve's fault it didn't take off, right? Because they delivered a shit product. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I feel sad for it because I knew some people that were on that team, like some friends that are on that team, but it is what it is, Slim Jim asked, do you guys think the sets of 2019 will include some new interesting big minions similar to the old gods? Ooh. Old gods? So. Oh, you mean like big ones, like
big boys,
game finishing type of things,
or girls,
girls.
Some is like really. I still miss Cthulhu, and I'm going to miss Lich King really bad when he heads over to Wild. I hope. I really do.
I miss that Yasharaj Barnes deck, man. Like that's the one.
Oh no!
I'm just kidding. I
hope you have good locks on your door. I think
No. What I think, like, it's cool, right? When expansions have these big and impactful cards. I think with the old gods were the right type of cards. The Death Knights were maybe a bit too strong in that regard, because there are also all these late game cards, right? They're very cool, and I'm definitely gonna miss Gul'dan and Jaina, but I hope they do some late game cards, but the difficulty with designing them is they cannot be too influence to have too much of an influence on the game, I guess, because then you make it to draw RNG, and if they don't have a big impact, you're going to play something else, right? So it's difficult.
I think that they will make those cards, but I don't think they'll be as powerful as the old gods ones were. I mean, I think the power level will probably be in the realm of like Lich King. Lich King will be at the top end of it, I would think. And I'm basing that on the heroes they're making versus what the DKs were. And you're kind of seeing that, okay, they're limited, limited power, limited value. I mean, Dean was on the show last week and said that they're not going to make any more of these unlimited value cards. So, in terms of just like the heroes, the whole Deathstalker Rexar and things like that. So I think we can imagine really powerful cards, but they'll just be, Battlecry, they do it and then that's it. Like it's not going to be something that just keeps on snowballing the game. Like if the thing lives a turn, you just lose the game. That sort of thing.
Yeah. No, it's So I hope they do big means, because I love slamming. Everybody loves slamming one of those big guys or girls, and
or girls. Yeah.
And just seeing them just tear the board apart, and that's fun.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we've been on for a while now, so why don't we wrap up? Definitely a great show, and thanks guys for coming on. I know it's like a bit last minute, so I really, really appreciate you guys, coming on and doing this, talking about the whole Blizzard thing particularly with me.
Of course, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do some shout-outs. Tom, you want to do some shout-outs before we take off? Where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Twitter. My tag's there. It's at Matthiesen. And on Inven Global, you can find all the articles I write, which are Hearthstone esports focused. But from time to time, I explore some different titles. Dota Auto Chess.
Apex Legends, maybe.
Oh yes. Oh no, definitely. Oh, you should check out my Apex Legends flowchart. I made a character flowchart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Which character to choose? It's not a big flowchart, right? But it was fun to make. So.
Wait. Where does it flow to? Like, I'm trying to imagine.
Like if you're in the character select screen, right, and you don't know which one to pick.
Yeah.
Just follow my flowchart within those few seconds you have, and there you go.
Is it like a personality test where it's like, if you like this, then go this direction? If you're the
one of the questions
is,
which is your favorite superhero? So
all right, I like it. Okay, we'll have to check that out for sure. Garrett, how about you?
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter, 2 R's and 2 T's and the spelling of Garrett. All of the podcasts that I do can be found at amove.tv. There's The Angry Chicken about Hearthstone. There's Into the Nexus about Heroes of the Storm. You may think it's a dead game. I still love it to death, and I'm still doing a show about it. And I actually just launched a new show. It's still pending. You won't find it on iTunes because for some reason Apple is taking the longest time ever to approve a podcast. Really? But it is on Spotify. It is on Google Play. You can subscribe to it directly on an RSS feed. You can go to amove.tv for the link. It is called Enter the Apex.
What's it about?
It's about. Have you heard of have you heard of Fortnite or like a battle royale? There's these little games that people are kind of excited about. There's a new one. It's like a Titanfall sequel.
Wow. Damn.
It's like the good Titanfall. No. Titanfall is obviously
Enter the Apex wherever podcasts can be found very soon on iTunes.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Lots of great shows there. And then, just want to thank you, the two of you guys, everybody, for tuning in. Obviously, all the listeners, once they get this on their feeds. But outside of that, Streamer Showdown, if you guys missed it last week, we did one. So check that out on youtube.com/Streamer Showdown. And we're going to be doing a Fortnite one here in about a week or so. So next week. So if you're into Fortnite, definitely check that out. You can find ValueTown on youtube.com/ChanManV and all iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud.com/ChanManV. Just look in all those places. You can find the podcast there. But that's going to be it, guys, for ValueTown this week. So for Tom Matthiesen, Garrett Weinzierl, and ChanManV, we'll see you next week.